In the shimmering halls of the vast palace of Al-Noor, the air held a quiet judgment. Sheikh Zayed Al-Noor stood tall, his sharp eyes scanning the throng of whispers and concealed smirks. Everyone laughed behind their silken fans and glimmering jewels, mocking the weight he carried. A daughter born into a world that saw her as nothing but a burden. Yet his heart burned fiercely with a silent promise to shield her from their scorn. The emirate stretched endlessly beneath the cobalt sky, its golden dunes kissing the horizon. Inside the palace, the scent of rare oud mingled with the sweet aroma of crushed cardamom and blooming jasmine. Persian carpets whispered beneath polished slippers. Chandeliers scattered diamonds of light over marble pillars carved with stories of honor and legacy. Yet beneath this opulence dwelled shadows, those born not of night, but of cold gazes and whispered doubts. In the private garden, hidden from the eyes of the court, Zayed's daughter, Layla, brushed her fingertips over the velvet petals of blooming roses. Her eyes, a storm of unshed tears and quiet resolve, lingered on the distant silhouette of her father's regal figure, crusading the world with ruthless confidence. His strength veiled his loneliness, a titan burdened by the cruel whispers about her fragile existence in aristocratic circles. To them, she was the mark of a mistake. To him, his fiercest treasure. The heavy doors creaked open, and on cautious feet stepped Amina, a humble waitress from the bustling city square. Clad in simple cotton and carrying the scent of freshly brewed tea, she moved with an unassuming grace that unsettled the nobles nearby. Their cold stares cut through the ballroom like sharp knives, but Amina met them with quiet dignity, a flicker of rebellion hidden beneath her gentle smile. Layla's glance caught hers, curiosity mingled with silent questions. For the first time, her eyes found a reflection of strength beyond the gilded cage she inhabited. Zayed watched, the lines on his face deepening. The presence of this outsider stirred something dormant, a challenge to the fortress he had so meticulously built around his family. In the shimmering light, subtle tensions danced like fireflies. Amina offered a tray of steaming drinks, fingers brushed unknowingly against silk sleeves. The court's disdain tightened, yet beneath that, a fragile alliance began to weave itself. Fragile, dangerous, and full of promise. Words remained unspoken, but glances exchanged beneath lowered lashes spoke volumes of defiance and an emerging hope. But as the evening deepened, a shadow slipped through the cracks of this fragile peace. Zayd's gaze fell upon a folded note clutched unknowingly by Amina, a glimpse of a secret long buried, one that could unravel not only the fragile dignity of his daughter, but shake the pillars of his empire. His breath caught, heart pounding in a storm of dread and determination. And before the next secret of this magnificent realm unfolds, make sure you're part of our caravan of stories. Many fates are yet to be forged, and I don't want you to miss a single moment. Leave a like if the heart of this billionaire sheikh has already intrigued you. Tell me in the comments, from which city do you follow this saga, and what twist do you think awaits? Your passion for these dramas inspires us to continue. Thank you for being with us. The folded note burned like a silent warning in Sheikh Zayed al-Noor's clenched fist. His gaze pierced the shadows of the garden, where Amina had disappeared moments ago, her figure swallowed by the marble labyrinth of the palace. He felt the weight of the unseen eyes upon him again, whispering doubts and scorn, their laughter echoing in the corridors of power. Yet, this was a burden he bore alone, a fire that refused to be extinguished by the cruel judgments of court life. Inside the private quarters, the lingering scent of oud mixed with the faint trace of crushed cardamom. As Layla traced the delicate patterns on her silk robes with trembling fingers, her heart pounded, equal parts fear and fierce determination, haunted by the knowledge that her father's world was crumbling around her without anyone but them noticing. The note in Zayed's hand was no ordinary scrap of paper. Its edges bore a faded seal, ancient and whispered about in the deepest halls of their lineage. The message inside hinted at betrayal, a secret that could unravel generations of trust and power, a secret linked inexorably to the one person who had dared to tread dangerously close to his daughter's fragile world. Amina's footsteps echoed softly in the distance, graceful yet steeled by the fire of concealed truths. She appeared by the threshold, her eyes locking with Zayed's, no longer just a humble waitress of the city, but a catalyst in a game far larger than either could yet grasp. "Your Highness," she spoke, voice barely above a whisper, but firm enough to carry across the cold marble. "I did not mean to intrude." Zayd's response was a slow breath, the storm behind his amber eyes barely contained. Intrusion is often the first step towards revelation. The room simmered with an unspoken tension. Amina's delicate hands clutched the folded note, the weight of her secret pressing down like the desert sun on the endless dunes beyond palace walls. She lifted her gaze, courage flickering against the tide of fear. "Layla, your daughter, is not the only one with secrets," she confessed, each word dripping with the pain of hidden scars. Outside, the night cloaked the emirate in silver and sable, but inside, the walls seemed to close in, suffocating in their opulence. The faraway sound of flowing fountains blended with the faint rustling of silk, as father and outsider stood locked in a silent battle of wills. The vulnerability in Zayd's stance, so skillfully hidden from the court, broke through momentarily. His voice softened, carrying a rare fragility beneath the titanic power he wielded. "Speak, then. Tell me what this secret is that you carry with such weight." But tremor shook Amina's frame. The life from which she had fled, the city's shadows she had escaped, were slowly curling back to clutch her. But here, in this gilded cage, she found a tentative strength, born not of riches, but of truth. "It's about your family, about alliances forged in darkness," she said. "There's a man, a figure you believed loyal. It seems his loyalty is a lie." Zayed's eyes narrowed, fury simmering beneath the poised exterior. Who would dare betray the name of al-Noor? Before Amina could answer, the heavy doors of the chamber swung open, and Layla entered, her presence both fragile and fierce. Her stunning beauty was shadowed by uncertainty, as if she carried the weight of the palace's judgment in her every breath. "Father," she said softly, voice wavering but resolute. "I heard voices. The palace is restless. What is happening to us?" The gulf between authority and innocence stretched wide. Zayed looked at his daughter, the fiercest treasure he had vowed to protect, and felt the crushing burden of the world closing in on them both. "Something has come to light," he murmured, careful to conceal the tempest raging within him. "But you, Layla, you are stronger than the whispers." Layla's defiant smile was tempered by the shadow in her father's eyes. The unity they shared was fragile, like the petals of the roses she so loved, beautiful, yet vulnerable to the harsh desert winds. "We cannot let them break us," she said, stepping closer to Amina. "What is this alliance that threatens us?" Amina hesitated, the secret trembling on her lips, but truth that could shatter the foundation beneath their feet. The silence between the three filled the room, pregnant with possibility and peril. The palace, once a sanctuary of tradition and strength, now felt like a stage for unseen enemies weaving webs of deceit. Zayed's jaw tightened. "If betrayal lives among us, it will be found and crushed. No secret is safe in the house of Al-Noor." His words were a sword unsheathed, yet the note in his hand was a poisoned blade. The question hung heavily. Could the empire survive if the truth came to light? Layla's gaze dropped to the note in Amina's trembling hands, the silence screaming louder than any accusation. Something about this fragile woman defied every expectation, a pawn, a threat, or perhaps the key to their salvation. As the first stars flickered against the night sky, the palace held its breath. In the distance, footsteps echoed, soft, deliberate, and filled with ominous intent. A shadow detached itself from the darkness beyond the garden walls. A silhouette cloaked in mystery and menace, watching, waiting. The secret was no longer confined to folded paper. It had taken a dangerous life of its own, and somewhere, hidden beneath the silks and jewels, the true game had only just begun. The moon hung low over the sprawling emirate, its silver light spilling across the dunes like a whisper of forgotten dreams. Within the palace walls, an uneasy silence lingered, a fragile veil stretched tightly over the storm poised to break. Sheikh Zayed Al-Noor's gaze did not waver from the note held in his clenched fist. The aged parchment seemed to pulse with menace beneath the faint glow of the lanterns. His knuckles whitened, betraying the turmoil roiling beneath his controlled exterior. Amina's eyes met his again, steady despite the tempest swirling between them. The faint scent of jasmine clung to her, a whispered defiance mingling with the warm evening air. She was no longer the timid waitress who had slipped unnoticed through the marbled halls. She was now a bearer of truths dangerous enough to fracture a dynasty. "Tell me," Zayed commanded softly, "who is the man that wears the mask of loyalty but hides a blade behind his back?" Her lips pressed into a thin line, the weight of this confession pressing down like desert heat. "His name is Rashid Al Saraf. You trust him as one of your closest advisors, but his allegiance bends like a palm frond in a storm, toward whoever benefits most." Zayed's jaw tightened, a crack in the armor of his confidence. "Rashid." The name echoed through his thoughts like a jagged blade. A man who had stood beside him in council, whose counsel had been trusted, whose ambition may now be the dagger poised to sever the threads of his empire. Layla stepped forward. Her presence, fragile, yet imbued with courage born from nights of whispered prayers and unanswered questions. Her emerald eyes shimmered with a fierce determination, reflecting the flickering lantern light like jewels forged in fire. "Father," she said, voice thick with emotion, "if betrayal wears Rashid's face, then how do we protect what remains? The empire feels like sand slipping through our fingers." Zayd's stance shifted, the titanic weight of his lineage pressing heavily upon his broad shoulders. "We uncover every secret, Layla. No lie will remain buried, not while I still breathe." Amina swallowed, the room's tension crackling like static. "There is more," she admitted. "A pact made in shadows, long before some in this palace walked these halls. It involves your family's oldest ally, the Al-Harith tribe, and the price they demand might unravel us all." The mention of the Al-Harith tribe sent a cold shiver through the air. Though allies on the surface, their loyalty had always been tenuous, etched in delicate negotiations and veiled threats. To speak of a hidden pact was to invite a tempest over the fragile sands of peace. Layla's fingers clenched the silk of her gown. "What price?" Before Amina could answer, the corridors outside whispered with the soft footfalls of approaching danger. A shadow detached itself from the darkness, drifting steadily toward the chamber. Zayd's eyes sharpened with the instincts of a hunter. We are no longer alone. The heavy oak doors swung open, revealing Rashid al-Sarraf himself, tall, impeccably dressed, his presence commanding, yet veiled in thinly concealed menace. His smile was a polished blade, sharp and cold. "Your Highness," Rashid's voice was smooth silk covering steel. "I trust my presence does not interrupt your delicate discussions." Zayd's gaze locked onto him like iron meeting flint. "Your loyalty is questioned, Rashid. Have you come to prove your innocence or to deepen the wound you have inflicted?" A tense silence thickened the room. Rashid's smile never faltered, but his eyes glinted with unreadable intentions. "I have always served the House of Al-Noor," he replied evenly. "Perhaps it is time for truths to be laid bare, no matter how uncomfortable." Layla stepped beside her father, the defiant fire in her gaze flaring. "If there are secrets, Rashid, reveal them. Better we face the storm together than drown in lies." The whispered currents of power swirled, binding the three in a dangerous dance. A dance where trust was a rare commodity, and every step carried the risk of a fatal misstep. Rashid's eyes flickered briefly toward Amina, a silent acknowledgement of her presence, a wild card in a game they both feared and revered. Then he spoke, his words cutting through the quiet like a desert wind unsheathing sand. "There is a faction within the Al-Harith tribe, those who seek to leverage the old pact to seize control. Their ambition is to claim what rightfully belongs only to the House of Al-Noor." Zayd's heart thundered, fury and fear intertwining into a tempest. "And you suggest this faction moves closer with every passing day?" Rashid inclined his head. "The danger grows, Your Highness. But there is a way to quell it. An alliance long buried, binding blood with blood, sealed through a union neither side dared speak of aloud." The weight of Rashid's revelation settled like thick smoke. Layla's breath hitched, understanding dawning like sunlight breaking over endless dunes. "A marriage," she whispered, voice shaking. "An alliance through marriage." Zayed's mind raced. Alliances sealed by marriage were the currency of power, but they came at a price never paid lightly. His gaze locked onto Amina, whose expression flickered with turmoil and pact that binds families. "But what of the woman to whom this alliance is pledged?" he demanded, the question heavy between them. Amina stepped forward, the courage she'd summoned fortifying her trembling frame. "It is a woman hidden from these halls, but not from fate. A woman bearing secrets as deep as Layla's own struggles, and perhaps the key to breaking this cycle of betrayal." Layla's eyes searched Amina's, the fragile hope of salvation, clashing with the shadows of doubt. "Who is she, and why is she hidden?" Before Amina could answer, a sharp cry shattered the stillness. From the hallway burst a palace guard, wide-eyed and breathless. "Your Highness, the Eastern Gates, a caravan bearing the colors of the Al-Harith tribe, has been intercepted. They bring a message and a warning." Zayed's pulse quickened as the pieces of this treacherous puzzle snapped into sharper focus. Loyalties shifting like desert sands, secrets beneath secrets, a future teetering on the edge of a blade. The room held its breath once more. Layla stepped closer to her father, their shadows entwined beneath the opulent chandeliers. Two souls united in defiance of the merciless fate threatening to consume them. Zayed unfolded the note once more, the ancient seal breaking as if surrendering the weight of generations. His voice dropped to a harsh whisper. "Our empire stands on the brink, and the game has only just begun." The flickering lanterns cast shifting shadows across the polished marble floor as Sheikh Zayed al-Noor's gaze remained fixed upon the crumpled note in his hand. The ancient seal, now broken, lay forgotten on the table, a relic of a pact whose echoes threatened to drown them all. His heart pounded fiercely, tremors of dread and resolve mingling beneath the formidable exterior that had guarded his empire for decades. Outside, the heavy oak doors stood ajar, and the charged silence within the chamber seemed to stretch taut, as if awaiting a storm. Layla's emerald eyes burned with an intensity that defied her delicate frame. She stepped forward, her voice trembling with both fear and defiance. "Who is this woman, Amina?" "The one destined to bend the fate of our families." Amina swallowed hard, her slender hands tightening around the edges of the fragile paper she still clutched. The scent of jasmine that clung to her was faint now, under the weight of truths long buried. "Her name is Noor al-Harith," she whispered. "A woman born into secrets as dark as the desert, nights, hidden away not by choice but by necessity. She carries the bloodline that could either undo or unite the House of al-Noor and the al-Harith tribe." Zayed's amber eyes narrowed, the vast desert outside reflecting the storm that raged within him. Why has she been kept a secret? Why has no light ever touched her name in these halls? Amina hesitated, the pain of her own past surfacing behind her calm exterior, because her existence threatens to unravel the carefully woven alliances, because her very presence is a gamble that many fear to take. Layla exchanged a glance with her father, both caught in the shifting tides of loyalty and betrayal. The flicker of candlelight revealed the tension etched in their faces, a triangle of knowledge, trust, and uncertainty. The silence was shattered by the measured footsteps of Rashid al-Sarraf, who re-entered the room with a predator's grace, his dark eyes lingering on Amina like a shadow tracking prey. "Secrets breed in darkness," he said smoothly, voice saturated with equal parts menace and charm. "But sometimes, illumination reveals the truth no one wishes to face." Zayed's jaw clenched. "Speak plainly, Rashid. What game are you playing at? Is this woman a pawn or the queen in your dangerous chessboard?" Rashid smiled thinly, the corners of his mouth barely lifting. "Neither, Your Highness. Noora is both threat and salvation. The choice, however, lies with you." Layla's breath caught. "What do you mean? How can one person wield such power over two great houses?" Rashid's gaze flicked between father and daughter, calculating, cold. "Blood, Your Highness. Blood is the currency of power here. Noora's lineage intertwines both families in a way that could cement peace or ignite war." The room seemed to shrink beneath the weight of Rashid's confession. The fragrant air grew thick with the scent of crushed cardamom and spilled tension, mingling with the distant echo of water trickling from the courtyard fountains. Zayed's voice was low, but steeled with iron determination. "Then we must find her, before old grudges and fresh betrayals consume us all." Amina stepped forward, a fragile courage knitting itself through her nerves. "There is but one clue to her whereabouts, a silver pendant passed down among the Al-Harith women, adorned with the emblem of a falcon in flight. It has been seen in the hands of a woman matching her description, hidden deep within the desert's forgotten corners." Layla's eyes sparkled with a mixture of hope and dread. "I will go. I must see this woman, know the truth with my own eyes." Zayed's heart clenched at the bravery of his daughter, so fragile and yet fierce. His hand reached out instinctively, resting on her shoulder, a silent vow of protection and trust. "You will not go alone." The door creaked once more, a hush falling over the room as a cloaked figure slipped inside. The firelight danced off the sharp angles of his face, an unexpected ally, or yet another shadow poised to strike. "Your Highness," the man said, bowing his head respectfully, "I come bearing news from the southern border. The Al-Harith faction that opposes the pact has begun mobilizing. Skirmishes are sparking, embers ready to engulf the entire emirate." The faces around the room tightened, threats closing in from every side. Layla's voice dropped to a determined whisper. "Then time is no longer a luxury we can afford. The empire, the family, rests on a razor's edge." Zayed's glance flickered to Amina, whose eyes held a newfound resilience. They had all become prisoners of secrets and betrayals, pawns in a game older than the dunes themselves. He rose slowly, the weight of centuries of duty settling on his broad shoulders, a storm in his amber gaze. prepare the desert caravans. We ride at dawn. The fate of Al-Noor will be shaped not by silence, but by the courage to confront the shadows. As the candle flames guttered, reflecting in the darkening windows, Layla felt a surge of resolve ignite within her, a fire that defied the cold judgments of court and whispered betrayals. And in the deepest shadows beyond the palace, where sand met stone and danger whispered on the wind, a lone figure observed, face obscured beneath a veil of midnight. Fingers curled tightly around a talisman, eyes gleaming with ruthless intent. The game had changed. The Sheikh's secrets were no longer safe. The dagger of destiny was poised above the house of Al-Noor, ready to strike where it hurt most. And somewhere, far from the palace's opulence, Noura al-Harith stirred, her fate intertwined with theirs. Unaware that the desert's silence was about to break with a storm. The desert wind whispered secrets outside the palace walls, carrying dust and promise over the endless dunes. Inside, the grand hall remained cloaked in tension, the heavy curtains barely stirring in the faint breeze. Sheikh Zayed al-Noor stood near the window, the shattered remnants of the ancient, seal still darkened by shadow in his palm. Each crack in the parchment seemed a fissure in his own foundation. Layla paced quietly beside the ornate lattice wall, her fingers tracing invisible patterns over carved wood, her heart caught between dread and defiance. The weight of the night pressed down on her, heavier than the jeweled necklaces that adorned her slender neck. Her emerald eyes lifted to meet her father's amber gaze, seeking strength, an anchor in the storm that threatened to consume them all. Amina, standing at the threshold, felt the oppressive silence like a physical force. This palace had once been a place of distant dreams to her. Now it twisted into a labyrinth of looming dangers and whispered betrayals. Her secret, a silver pendant hidden beneath her simple blouse, burned against her skin, a constant reminder that the past she fled was closing in. Zayed's voice broke the stillness, low and edged with steel. Noura al-Harith is not simply a name. She is the key to everything. We must reach her before the storm does. Layla's breath hitched, desperation flickering behind the resolve. How can we trust what we've just uncovered? A woman hidden from us, a pact so old that the sands have buried its truth? Her fingers clenched into fists. If she wields the power Rashid speaks of, why is she not here, in these halls where legacies are forged? Amina stepped forward, hesitant but steady. Because to reveal her would be to ignite the very flames we seek to extinguish. There are those in the Al-Harith tribe who would see the house of Al-Noor crumble if her blood mingled with ours. Noura carries the burdens of shadows neither family dares face aloud. The flickering chandeliers cast shifting lights over their tense faces as Rashid al-Saraf re-entered. His footsteps, a singular percussion against the marble. His smile was polished magnanimity, but his eyes betrayed a predator's calculation. Secrets breed shadows, but light exposes even the darkest corners, he said smoothly. We stand at a crossroads where old alliances blur into new dangers. Zayed's gaze sharpened as he stepped toward Rashid, the air between them crackling. Speak plainly. What game do you play? Rashid inclined his head, voice dipped in velvety menace. The factions within Al-Harith threaten to unleash chaos. Noor and the alliance she embodies could either seal peace or spark war. The choice lies with you. How far are you willing to bend to save your empire? Amina's eyes glimmered with fierce hope as she whispered, Noor's whereabouts can be traced by her pendant, the falcon in flight. But no one has seen her for years. She is both a ghost and a legend, hidden deep within the desert's unforgiving embrace. Layla's jaw tightened. Then I will find her. I will face whatever awaits, no matter the cost. Zaid's hand found her shoulder, the faintest tremor betraying the storm inside him. You will not face this alone. There is a desert caravan already preparing at dawn. We ride together, father, daughter, and the truth that binds us. Outside, the palace air grew heavier still. From the shadowed courtyard, a sudden movement stirred, a figure slipping through the marble columns, unseen yet palpably close. Suddenly, the heavy doors burst open with a sharp clang. A palace guard appeared, breathless and wide-eyed. Your Highness, the eastern gates have been breached. A caravan bearing the Al-Harith colors was ambushed. They managed to send a warning, a message wrapped in blood and betrayal. Zayd's eyes narrowed to slitted amber flames, the ancient lines of his face deepening with fury and fear. So, the game accelerates. The desert is awake, and the enemies are closer than ever. Layla took a step forward, her voice steady despite the quake in her chest. What do they want from us? What have we yet to uncover? Before an answer could come, the soft scrape of silk across the marble floor drew all eyes. Amina's glance flickered toward the new presence, a woman shrouded in midnight, her face veiled, but her posture regal, unyielding. Zayd's breath caught. Who dares enter unnoticed? The veiled figure lifted a delicate hand, revealing a falcon pendant glinting silver against dark fabric. A hush fell like night over the chamber. I am Noor al-Harith. The woman's voice was steady, but held a storm within. And the peace you seek will not come without sacrifice. Silence thickened. The air charged as destiny's threads tightened around the house of Al-Noor. Layla's eyes met Noor's through the shadow, a silent challenge and a spark of unexpected kinship igniting between them. And high above, the restless moon hid behind fleeing clouds, as if reluctant to witness the unfolding tempest. Between secrets and loyalty, power and betrayal, the delicate balance of an empire teetered on the edge of ruin, and the first steps toward salvation had only just begun. The heavy curtains trembled as the night deepened, casting elongated shadows across the marble floor. Sheikh Zayd Al-Noor remained motionless near the window, the shattered seal's remnants crushed tightly in his palm. Outside, the desert winds whispered restless warnings, as if the very dunes carried the weight of impending doom. Layla's footsteps echoed softly as she approached, her emerald eyes shimmering with a fierce blend of resolve and uncertainty. Her gown of midnight blue flowed like liquid silk with every measured step. She stopped beside her father, daring to meet his amber gaze, seeking the unspoken courage he tried to veil beneath his stoic facade. We cannot delay, she said, voice barely above a whisper, yet heavy with conviction. Noor's fate is entwined with ours now. Waiting will only feed the flames of betrayal. Zayed's jaw clenched, the harsh desert light revealing the sharp angles of a man torn between duty and dread. This secret we carry, a woman hidden, a pact unearthed. It is a double-edged sword. To wield it means risking everything the house of Noor has built. From the doorway, Amina stepped forward, the faint scent of jasmine trailing behind her like a secret whispered to the night. Her fingers nervously brushed the silver falcon pendant concealed beneath her blouse, a talisman heavy with history and danger. "There is a caravan preparing at dawn," she said, voice steady despite the turmoil within. "Desert riders loyal to the emirate are ready to traverse the sands. But I fear we do not know the full measure of the dangers ahead." Zayed's eyes narrowed, pain flashing through the depths of his amber irises. The desert is unforgiving, as is the treachery that stalks these halls. But if Noor is our only hope to bind two fractured houses, then we must move swiftly. Layla's hand brushed his arm lightly, a silent vow shared between them. Despite the fragile facade she maintained in court, at that moment she was every bit the warrior her father needed. "I will not be a prisoner behind these walls," she declared. "If fate has consigned me to this path, I will see it through, even if it means walking alone through the dunes." Zayed's hand covered hers, the rough calluses stark against her smooth skin. His voice softened with a rare tenderness, struggling to break free from years of regal restraint. "You will not be alone, Layla. Amina and I will ride with you. Blood binds us, but trust must be forged in fire." As the three stood united, the flickering lantern light cast their elongated shadows over the marble, mingling with the silent ghosts of ancestors, whose legacies now trembled on fragile threads. A sudden sharp knock fractured the heavy silence. A palace guard entered with hurried steps, his face pale and eyes wide. "Your Highness," he gasped, "there has been an attack on the eastern caravans. Scouts report that Al-Harith loyalists ambushed our riders. Many were taken, but a message was sent in blood." Zayed's amber eyes grew cold and hard, the flickering candlelight reflecting the ferocity of a desert storm. He unfolded the worn parchment the guard handed him, a crude symbol scorched onto its surface, a warning and a challenge. "They grow bold," Zayed muttered, voice grinding like crushed stones. "This war is no longer hidden behind veils and whispers. It has come crashing through our gates." Layla's breath caught as she stepped closer, the weight of the moment pressing down upon her slender shoulders. "What do they want from us? What is the cost of this ancient pact?" Before Zayed could answer, the heavy chamber doors swung open with commanding force. A figure stepped inside, tall, cloaked in desert dust and shadows. His dark eyes held the quiet menace of the desert sun at noon, unyielding and merciless. Rashid al-Sarraf's presence pulsed through the room like a hidden wound, his smile tight and unreadable. "The pact is fraying, Your Highness. The Al-Harith faction you feared is not merely scheming. They are mobilizing. The time for subtlety has ended." Zayed's gaze locked onto Rashid, a tempest of fury and suspicion swirling behind his amber eyes. "You speak of betrayal as though it were a mere breeze," he said sharply. yet you stand unscathed among us." Rashid's eyes flicked momentarily to Amina, whose own gaze remained steady, and that slight glance spoke volumes of unsettled alliances and unspoken truths. "The desert teaches us many lessons," Rashid said quietly. "Trust is as rare as rain. But this," he gestured to the crumpled note in Zayed's hand, "is the line that divides survival from ruin." There was an agonizing pause, a breath held between the storms that brewed outside and within these hallowed walls. Layla's voice, firm yet laced with vulnerability, finally broke the tension. "If the price of peace is a marriage sealed by blood and sacrifice, what of the woman at its center? Who is truly bound by this pact?" Rashid's eyes glimmered with something unreadable, a shadow of a smile tugging at his lips. "Noor al-Harith is both heir and exile. Her sacrifice is the fulcrum upon which this fragile alliance turns." Amina shifted uneasily, then spoke with a quiet strength. "There is more than just blood that binds her. Noor carries a secret deep within, one powerful enough to either mend the fractures or shatter everything in its path." The chamber thickened with sudden silence. The only sounds were the distant flow of water in the courtyard and the faint crackle of burning incense. Zayed's fingers tightened their grip on the ribbon of parchment, the edges nearly torn. "Then we have no choice. At dawn, we ride through the unforgiving sands, not as rulers sheltered by gold and silk, but as warriors prepared to confront shadows long buried." Layla's eyes met Amina's, a fragile understanding passing between them, a recognition of shared burden and inevitable destiny. As the first tendrils of dawn brushed the horizon with rose and gold, a faint noise whispered through the corridor, a soft rustling, barely there, but enough to draw every gaze. A solitary figure slipped through the shadows, footsteps almost silent, but heavy with intent. Before anyone could react, the veiled woman who had introduced herself as Noor al-Harith emerged from the darkness, her presence startling and commanding all at once. The falcon pendant gleamed in the newly kindled light, a beacon of hope and danger intertwined. Her voice, low and resolute, broke the spell. "The past is not buried. It claws at us, insistent and merciless. What you seek to protect may burn, unless you are willing to face the fires within." Zayed's gaze locked with hers, the full weight of his empire pressing down in that one charged moment. And beyond the palace walls, where dunes rippled endlessly beneath a blood-tinged sky, unseen eyes watched with cold calculation. The game was no longer secret. The fate of the House of Al-Noor teetered precariously, poised above the abyss. The desert held its breath, and in that breath hung a silence louder than any scream. The moon cast a silvery veil over the palace, its light filtering through the ornate lattice screens into the quiet chamber where Sheikh Zayed al-Noor, Layla and Amina stood, a fragile council bound by secrets and unspoken fears. The falcon pendant hung like a silent herald of a past both perilous and necessary. Zayed's eyes, burdened by years of unyielding command, met the veiled gaze of Noor al-Harith. Her presence was a challenge as much as a promise, a living thread weaving together two fractured legacies. My arrival was inevitable. Nora's voice rang steady, yet beneath that calm resonated the tremors of a storm held at bay. The sands have shifted for too long in silence. Now the winds carry the cry of betrayal. Layla stepped forward, the tension in her limbs translating into fierce determination. We have lived in whispers and shadows long enough. Tell me, how did you come to be hidden? Why must your bloodline remain a secret when our empire trembles on the edge? Nora's eyes softened briefly, a shadow of pain flickering across them. I was kept apart to protect what little hope there was left. The pact that binds us was forged not from trust, but necessity. An uneasy truce meant to stave off a war born of old wounds. Amina watched quietly, her fingers brushing the pendant beneath her blouse, as if drawing strength from its cool metal. In her silence lay stories the palace walls had never dared to hear. Zayed broke the heavy stillness with a voice low and resolute. Trust was never given freely. Betrayal breeds within these walls as surely as sand seeps through fingers. We have allowed shadows to grow where the light must reign. With a deliberate step, he crossed the room, the silk of his robes whispering secrets of power and burden. His gaze flicked between the assembled faces, each carrying their own scars and fears. This alliance demands more than blood, he said, voice carrying a potent mixture of command and vulnerability. It demands truth. It demands sacrifice. Noora inclined her head, acknowledging the unspoken weight of those words. There is a price to pay, one written long before any of us drew breath. Old enemies stir, and not all who bear the falcon seek peace. Layla's heart hammered fiercely, the echo resounding in her throat. Then we must move quickly. The palace can no longer be sanctuary or prison. We ride at dawn. Amina's eyes met Layla's, a silent promise passing between them. Here, in the fragile flicker of hope, a new strength was born. A union not of convenience, but of survival. Suddenly, the distant murmur of hurried footsteps shattered the fragile peace. The heavy door creaked open once more, revealing a young messenger, his face pale, his chest rising and falling with rapid breaths. "Your Highness," he gasped, producing a folded scroll sealed with crimson wax. "The Eastern Caravan has sent this, an urgent plea and a warning." Zayed took the scroll, the warmth of freshly broken wax still faint under his fingertips. He broke the seal, his eyes scouring the carefully penned message, each word sinking deep, twisting cold knives into an already battered resolve. "They move faster than we feared," he murmured, voice tight. "The Al-Harith faction grows bold. They have taken lives among our riders. This war is no longer a whisper, but a roar." Layla's gaze hardened, shadows of dawn painting the room with fractured light. If their ambition is fire, we must be the water that douses it before it consumes us all. Noora stepped forward, the veil falling just enough to reveal a glimmer of fierce resolve. "I will lead you to where the desert meets the forgotten, where the falcon's flight is oldest and strongest. But know this, the path is riddled with peril, and not all who wear our colors ride for peace." Zayed's chest tightened, the weight of centuries pressing upon him. Then it's a journey not just across sand, but through the treacherous heart of our legacy. Amina's voice broke through the swirl of tension, quiet but unwavering. There is one who watches from the shadows, a traitor cloaked in loyalty. His knife waits for the moment our guard slips. A hush fell upon the chamber, the air thick with impending danger. Layla's fingers instinctively found her father's hand, a silent anchor amid the swirling storm. "We ride as one," Zayed declared, his voice a thunderclap of command and hope. "For the house of Al-Noor, for our future, we will face the desert and the treachery alike." The candle flames flickered, casting dancing shadows that seemed to mirror the shifting allegiances within the palace. Outside, the winds whispered once more, carrying a voice not of warning, but of reckoning. And before the stars could blink out beneath the coming dawn, a solitary figure watched from the cliffs beyond the emirate. His eyes burning with cold fire, his lips curling into a smile that promised ruin. The game had changed. The Sheikh's empire was no longer merely a fortress to defend, but a battlefield riddled with hidden daggers. And the greatest betrayal would come from the deepest shadows within. The dawn had barely kissed the dunes when the caravan stirred beneath the sprawling mosaic of stars, fading into morning light. Sheikh Zayed Al-Noor stood at the edge of the great courtyard, the first rays casting a burnished glow over his resolute profile. His gaze swept over the gathering riders, their faces lined with determination and shadows of the danger they were about to face. The weight of 1,000 silent prayers hung between them. Layla's hand tightened around the reins of her horse, silk sleeves fluttering against the tempered desert breeze. Her emerald eyes, sharp with resolve, yet clouded with the ghosts of uncertainty, met her father's amber gaze. The unspoken promise between them was forged in the fires of their shared burden, a resolve to confront the forces threatening to tear their world apart. Amina lingered nearby, the cool metal of her falcon pendant pressing against her chest beneath the modest folds of her dress. Her breath came steady, belying the tempest within. She had stepped into a realm she barely understood, but could never leave. Her secret was no longer hidden. It now pulsed at the very heart of this fragile alliance. The scent of crushed cardamom and rare desert blooms drifted faintly through the air, mixing with the coarse dust stirred by restless hooves. The palace, once a sanctuary of gleaming marble and whispered intrigue, felt miles away, its opulence replaced by the raw expanse of sand and sun. "Ready?" Zayed's voice, low but commanding, cut through the morning hush. His eyes lingered on Layla, seeing both the fragile woman and the fierce warrior merging into one. She nodded, the faintest smile tracing her lips, a flicker of warmth amidst the encroaching storm. For the house of Al-Noor. As the caravan set forth, each step felt heavier than the last, the desert wind seeming to carry both hope and an unspoken warning. The dunes shifted as if alive, their golden waves concealing secrets, just as the palace walls had done. This journey would test every ounce of their courage and faith. Hours later, beneath the blazing sun, the solitary trail led them deeper into the unforgiving wilderness. Layla's chest tightened with every mile away from home, not out of fear for herself, but for the fragile threads that held their family together. Amina rode close beside her, their silences filled with the weight of unspoken words. At last, Layla broke the quiet, voice trembling yet resolute. "Tell me everything you know about Noora. What makes her so vital and so dangerous?" Amina's eyes flickered with a mixture of pain and conviction. Noora was born into shadows, kept hidden not only to protect her, but to shield the fragile alliance between the House of Al-Noor and the Al-Harith tribe. She carries the blood that could unite us or destroy us. A sudden gust whipped up tendrils of sand, swirling around them like phantom fingers. The heat pressed down, relentless and suffocating. "She is not just a woman," Amina continued, "but a key to ancient grudges, old rivalries that refuse to stay buried. If she falls into the wrong hands, or if her secret is exposed before its time, the empire we fight for will crumble." Layla's jaw clenched, determination hardening like desert stone. "Then we find her first, before the shadows consume all that we hold dear." The path twisted through jagged rocks and barren valleys, shadows lengthening as the sun dipped behind a wall of distant cliffs. The caravan slowed, senses alert to every crackle of drying brush or whispered movement in the stubborn silence. Zayed's weathered face, usually unreadable, betrayed a rare flicker of unease. "We are not alone. The treachery that haunts these sands is closer than we imagine." Suddenly, a sharp cry broke the stillness, sharp, desperate. Horses shifted nervously beneath their riders as Layla's heart thumped painfully in her chest. Ahead, the caravan halted near the ruins of an ancient fort, the stone walls crumbling like forgotten memories. A figure emerged from the swirling dust. A woman, her cloak tattered, eyes fierce and unblinking, stood bathed in the fiery light of sunset. The pendant at her neck shimmered unmistakably, a silver falcon in flight. "Noora," Layla breathed, barely a whisper. The woman's gaze locked with hers, and in that stare, Layla saw a reflection of her own haunted strength and a storm yet to break. "I have waited," Noora's voice cut through the air, voice steady, but trembling with truth. "But the past will not stay buried. You seek to bind our fates, but the blood between us is thick with betrayal." Zayed urged his horse forward, the harsh lines of his face softened by the gravity of reunion and reckoning. "Noora, the Empire stands on the edge of ruin and salvation. We need your truth." Noora's lips twisted into a haunted smile. "Truth is a razor's edge, and your trusted allies hide knives sharper than any blade." Layla's pulse surged, a silence brimming with dread and defiance hanging between them all. From the shadows behind Noora, movement shifted, a sudden rustle, subtle but unmistakable. Layla's breath caught as a dark figure slipped through the fading light, eyes gleaming with cold calculation. Beneath the relentless desert sky, the fragile alliance began to fracture. And, somewhere deep within the swirling sands, a silent witness smiled, the game's final cruel hand poised to strike, just as the first stars blinked awake against the spreading night. The first light of dawn spilled softly over the endless dunes, bathing the emirate of Al-Noor in a golden embrace. The vast desert, once a silent witness to secrets and whispered betrayals, now held the promise of a new beginning. Within the palace, the air had changed. Heavy burdens were lifting, replaced by cautious hope. Sheikh Zayed al-Noor stood tall at the balcony overseeing the awakening city. His amber eyes, once clouded by doubt and wrath, now reflected a calm determination. The shattered remnants of ancient pacts and veiled conspiracies had been laid bare, and the dust of deceit was finally settling. The journey to reclaim his family's honor had been treacherous, but the storm had passed. Behind him, Layla moved with quiet grace, her emerald gaze shining like twin flames in the soft morning light. No longer the fragile daughter shadowed by whispered scorn. She was a woman forged in trials, her spirit unbreakable. The weight of the past still rested lightly on her shoulders, but her heart beat steady with the fierce love and unwavering loyalty that had carried her through the darkest nights. Across from them, Amina stood with an elegant poise that belied her humble origins. The silver falcon pendant gleamed softly against the folds of her gown, a symbol now cleansed by truth and courage. She was no longer a mere outsider. She had become a guardian of fragile alliances and a keeper of secrets that would define the fate of two great houses. Zayed's voice, low and resolute, broke the silence. The betrayals have been confronted, the traitors unmasked. His gaze softened as he turned toward the two women who had become his pillars of strength. But it is through unity that we shall heal, through trust that we shall build a future worthy of our heritage. Layla stepped forward, her hand brushing Amina's in a delicate exchange of understanding and shared purpose. The blood that once threatened to divide us has instead carved the path toward peace. We will no longer be prisoners of shadows or victims of whispered lies. Her voice, steady and clear, carried the weight of a heart that had fought and triumphed. Amina nodded, her eyes gleaming with a fierce hope. Noor's truth came as a revelation, a reminder that even the most tangled legacies hold within them the seed of redemption. We carry that legacy forward, no longer bound by fear, but strengthened by the courage to face it. Outside, the garden blossomed after the rains. Roses glistened with droplets like scattered jewels, their fragrance weaving through the warm breeze. It was a subtle, natural reminder of renewal, of beauty reborn from hardship. Zayed looked toward the horizon, where the sun painted the sky in hues of rose and amber. Our empire stands rebuilt, not on old whispers, but on open hearts and brave souls. The past has been mirrored, and we have faced it together. His gaze turned inward, reflecting the peace that now settled in his soul, a release from long-held burdens. Layla smiled, the first genuine smile that reached her eyes in months. Father, this is more than survival. This is a new beginning. She stepped closer, the space between them filled with the quiet harmony of healed wounds and hopeful tomorrows. From the hall behind them emerged the courtyard filled with faces once skeptical, but now softened by the winds of change. Courtiers and allies alike gathered, their eyes reflecting a newfound respect and acceptance. The laughter that once held sharp edges now carried warmth. A collective exhale escaping the palace walls. The wounds inflicted by deceit and ambition would not be forgotten, but they would serve as lessons, as cornerstones upon which the House of Al-Noor would rise stronger, wiser, and more united. Amina's voice, gentle but unwavering, carried over the gathering. Let the falcon soar free, no longer as a symbol of hidden pacts, but as a beacon of trust and alliance. Together we stitch the silks of our families into one tapestry, resilient, intricate, and beautiful. Zayed placed a fatherly hand on Layla's shoulder, and in that silent gesture lay a promise kept, not just of protection, but of belief in the woman she had become. You have proven that strength is not born of titles or wealth alone, but of the heart's steadfast courage to forgive and forge ahead. Layla turned toward Amina, warmth filling her eyes. And your courage has shown us all that love and loyalty come in many forms, sometimes unexpected, but always true. The morning breeze carried away remnants of fear and uncertainty, leaving in its place the gentle hum of a peaceful life restored. The palace doors opened wide, as if inviting new chapters to be written, new vows to be made. Together, under the vast vault of an awakening sky, Sheikh Zayed, Layla, and Amina stood united, guardians of a legacy healed by truth, love, and sacrifice. As the sun climbed higher, casting its radiant glow over the golden sands and the gleaming walls of Al-Noor, a profound calm settled over the land. The empire's heart now beat in unison with its people, and the whispering desert winds carried a promise that no shadow, no secret, no betrayals could ever break the bond forged today. For in love and unity, the House of Al-Noor had found its true strength. A new dawn, a new era, and a future built on hope and enduring grace now stretched endlessly before them.